across the nation. And that is why he came up with that philosophy of governance, or of government, that let me include everyone, so that it's not basically once you lose, you're out. And I think that that is part of the problem. So I mean, from where I sit, I see a huge possibility of a few of Uhuru's allies actually coming into government to replace those who are brought in by Rigiji, and that's the reality of politics. And so those of us who are currently principal secretaries, they are having sleepless nights, trying to figure out whether they were going to be retained or in the broad-based arrangement, they will lose out. But certainly, at least in my view, you will see a few of President Uhuru's allies coming into government in William Ruto's effort to actually bring the people together. And it's good arithmetic. It's good arithmetic, it's good strategy going forward with 2.5 years left to elections. I think that it makes a lot of sense that he would do that. I've heard the name of Mutahi Kagwe being mentioned severally. Chances are he might join the cabinet. And he's a good pair of hands. At least most Kenyans don't have a problem with him. And it doesn't have to actually be the one that comes into the interior docket. He might still be given another docket, and a host of other people. And I think that from Raila's camp, you'll also see quite a number of them coming into government as principal secretary and such. And it is, in my view, like I said before, and I want to repeat, it's good for Kenya, it's good for President William Ruto. Good strategy, good arithmetic.
Okay, fair enough. Let me just sample some of the views on how Kenyans reacted to that particular meeting. There is Timothy Gikonyo who says, visiting Uhuru will not change our minds, Mr. President. Gilly Gilbert says, truthful man will be in shock after realizing that Uhuru took part in his impeachment. It's unfolding. John Mira says, every action kickback is there. You cannot change the ground. I recall, well, you said vote of Mount Kenya cannot re-elect you. And lastly, there's Faliz Kamau who says, even if he meets the spirits of freedom fighters like Kimathi, General Mavenge and more, name them, the die has been cast. Lastly, Kipngetisha Lisha says, very nice move. We shall all ignore what has happened initially and plan how our country is going to prosper. Now, coming to you, Mr. Odoyo Wide, President William Ruto was a man who said he's ready and he's open for his government to be kept in check. And that can happen if we have an opposition in place. With Raila Odinga in government, now we're seeing Uhuru Kenyatta probably being incorporated into government as well. Do we have an opposition in this country, and where does that leave Kenyans? Because if you don't have a functional opposition, then it's just the government. Kenyans have been left to themselves to hold the government accountable.
Let's say we don't have an opposition because that is what the Constitution envisaged. We no longer have the opposition and the government. We have the minority and majority, and they are meant to debate issues in parliament and not oppose for the sake of opposing, but oppose when it is supposed to be opposed and support when it's supposed to support. That idea of opposition and no opposition ended with the old constitution. And I think what President William Ruto is doing is uniting Kenya. I know there are many Kenyan politicians who thrive on this thing of they are our people, these are not our people. They are thriving in political antagonism. They are thriving on hate. This community versus that community, this political party versus that. Let us use these political parties for the sole purpose of getting elected. Once we are elected, we can use them now to keep the government, even if you are within. There's nothing that stops somebody elected on UDA from voting against that government. And there's nothing that stops somebody elected on ODM or Jubilee or Wiper for voting for the government. If it's a good thing, that is the country you want to build. And that is the country President William Ruto has chosen to build. But you read some messages there from the people. And there's one I picked. You said that Rigiji would be shocked to discover that Uhuru took part in his impeachment. I've been thinking about that for a long time. And I've been thinking that Uhuru was not necessarily defending Rigiji against the impeachment because President Uhuru Kenyatta most likely had realized the person they were dealing with. I think Rigiji was moving too fast, like Simon Makonde, even to the liking of Uhuru Kenyatta himself. You can't get out of being a first-time MP, get into DP, and the next day you want to take the whole of Mount Kenya and make it your fiefdom, that you say right, they go right, you say left, they go left, and you even go as far as warning people that if by January you have not folded in my fold, you will not be re-elected in 2027. I think that nobody was going to like. Nobody was going to like. I think that is where Rigiji lost what I would call his emotional intelligence. He didn't get it correctly. He should have been going pole-pole like Mark Matunga always does. This man called Mark Matunga, he never rushes, even making statements. He's pole-pole, he talks as he thinks. Okay. But I think Rigiji was moving too fast, and I will not be surprised if that statement that guy said there, that Uhuru probably was part of that. But also note that for quite some time now, there are certain two CS positions that have been vacant. Yes. And you know, in politics, things just don't happen. Especially with William Ruto, who we know is very fast in doing his things. This is a guy who keeps time more than anybody I know. There's a time we had to meet in Bomet at 2, at 1:30 he was already there. So I know he keeps time, I know he does his things in time. Okay. And for these positions to remain vacant, I think there were certain things the president was waiting to fall in place so that he names the occupiers of those positions.
Now, fair enough. Dr. Ari, the meeting might have been also, hinged on 2027, like we said. But there's another angle into it. Could this meeting also mean that, Raila Odinga and his experts have failed to stabilize the government?
Ian, you being a good friend of mine, I don't know which country you live in. I want to suspect that you live in Kenya. The government is stable.
Very stable.
Would we say stable, really? Because we've seen the lieutenants of Raila Odinga, those in cabinet. Yeah. We've also seen Ali Hassan Joe, for example, threatening Kenyans online who are trying to hold the government accountable. When you see CSs, we've seen Opio and I do that. Is the country really stable? Because if CSs are, somewhat not even open to taking...
Ian, you work for K24. I think it's K24 is under?
Mediamax.
Mediamax.
Yes.
You work for Mediamax. I can tell you, if there were no such utterances, such incidences, such conversations, you probably would easily go out of business, because there would be really no news. As Kenyans, we are used to an elevated conversation, and that is why even the media stand accused, because you still use the word opposition almost 11 or 12 years later with our new constitution. I don't know where you actually extract this from, because there's no legal provision under our current supreme law that provides for opposition. There's never been such. So we always just think that, in everything there should be an opposition. And, because there's no opposition now, but yet we gave ourselves a very progressive constitution that provides, for checks and balances, that provides for different arms of government, at least 3 of them, and the media being the 4th. And so where you actually come up or extract this word opposition, I still don't know today. And that's what shocks me every time I'm talking to the media, and every time you print this out. And you're misleading Kenya, that there should be always an opposition. You've seen Raila Odinga, even now that he's joined government and that he's working with President Ruto, he still brings out issues that he thinks should be addressed. And that should go especially for members of parliament. Members of parliament sitting where they do as majority and minority, even those in the majority who happen to be on the government side, are supposed to actually bring out issues that are not going right with government. And so, but you see, you are helping us to forget that that is actually the responsibility of members of parliament who are supposed to actually bring out issues. You know, the same way that you see in the judiciary, though I think that they still fall short, the same way they see in the judiciary, when something is not right, according to, you know, their opinions, they say, hey, government, stop until this happens, or this law is illegal, or this policy is against the constitution. That is really what parliament should be doing, regardless of whether the member of parliament is from a ruling party or a minority party. And so that is where things should play from. Not that, hey, you know what, so-and-so should be in the opposition and so-and-so should be in the other opposing side. That is not the way we actually elected and decided to govern ourselves by giving ourselves 2010 constitution.
I get where you're coming from, Dr. When you say Raila Odinga still comes out to talk about matters that affect Kenyans.
Yeah.
Now, some argue that he's doing that for optics because he comes out to, you know, talk about issues that are affecting Kenyans and what he wants, the issues that he wants, you know, them to be addressed. But is close allies, like I mentioned, Alias and Joe. For example, I asked someone here, the panelist I had yesterday, on the issue of whatever Junet Mohammed said in regards to the issue of public participation. Is close allies. The left hands are, you know, throwing shade at, you know, key constitutional matters, like, for example, the public participation. Junet Mohammed says this public participation, it's not even essential. What does that mean? Because Raila Odinga on one end, like you say, is trying to raise concerns, but his left hands are speaking another language.
Ian, I was lynched by your groups of the Gen Zs the last time I was on this table. When I actually raised the issue, I didn't even know that Junet Mohammed talked about it. When I actually said that we do have a problem with the way we view and conduct public participation. As an investor in the private sector, if I want to actually invest in anything here in Kenya, my mother doesn't have to actually be consulted. The level of public participation that she actually participated in was in electing a member of parliament that came. I mean, you can go back to when I was here, and X was quite on fire. And I was told that, hey, you know, you're being lynched, unasalimiwa. But I think there's a problem with the way we structure public participation, especially on key and important issues. Now, that aside, I want to ask you a fundamental question. In my house, I do have a 12-year-old son of mine who is a supporter, an ardent supporter of Arsenal. I'm an ardent supporter of Man U. We disagree on how the strategies and the teams we support. But believe me, we are best of friends. So why can't we actually have that kind of relationship, whereby I'm in a different party, I'm on a different with a different view on one or two things, but we can still actually work together. And that's the confusion that we run into when we see Raila Odinga working with the president, or when we see Uhuru Kenyatta working with the president. So we say that, oh, you know, that's the death of opposition. Opposition who is never alive was killed by the 2010 constitution.
Fair enough. This is what Junet said. Hii mambo ya kuomba ruhusa kwa kila mtu lazima ikushe. Those were his exact words, speaking in a tour of President William Ruto's tour.
But do you think that that's the best way forward?
Definitely it's not the best way forward.
The investor who set up MediaMax, did he have to actually go and ask everyone if we need to set up MediaMax?
But this is a private entity.
Exactly. Even private investment, that is what we do. We're driven by profit. And that is why our nature of democracy is representative. Actually, there's no reason to duplicate once we've elected our members of parliament to go and scrutinize things, go and scrutinize deals, go and look at on our behalf, there is no reason again to actually, you know, come back every time to actually ask 50 million Kenyans or 54 million Kenyans that do you allow this investor to actually come in. That to me is the problem.
Fair enough.
Not that we don't have public participation. It is there and I support it and we have a structure.
Mr. Doe, even as you respond to that, I want to ask you one more question because Dr. has attributed to the government and how open it has been. But the question is, why is the government sometimes so afraid of being held accountable? When you hear CSs like Alias and Joho threatening people on social media, we've seen the CS for Sports, Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, saying that the president is being fought because of his tribe. Why the certain change of narrative such that we're now hinging the narrative towards matters tribalism? Nobody's attacking the president because of his tribe.
Let's start with Ali Hassan Joho. I think you have not internalized the fact that these funds we hold in our hands are more serious weapons than AK-47. So when you see a man restrain a person with such a weapon and you call it being threatened, I think you are getting it all wrong. These funds can destroy this country and set it on fire. So when Joho gives directions to young people on how to use their funds responsibly, I think Joho should be given a clap.
In what capacity? In what capacity?
What do you mean? Joho is a leader in this country, and we expect leaders to guide the young ones. So Joho is guiding the young ones. Do not use your funds only to cause division amongst Kenyans, only to fight a government which is working, only to slow down development. Also use them to disseminate information, to do civic education, to praise what is right, and to remind us of what is wrong. That is what those funds are supposed to. So Joho did not threaten to beat anybody. Joho was guiding people on how to use a very fatal weapon.
For the record, the funds you are attributing to are the same funds that led to the withdrawal of the finance bill because the anti-government demonstrations began online, specifically on X. What is wrong with the people on social media holding the government accountable?
Of course, the same thing, the same weapon you can use to do a good thing and also use it to do a bad thing.
The government also hires bloggers to defend its policies on social media.
If that is good, I'm saying it can be used to do bad things and good things. So if those things you think are good, that's fine. But Joho was stopping them from using the fund to do the bad things.
The question is, if the government is in order to hire, probably get people to defend its policies on social media, then that is okay. What is wrong with people using the same social media to hold the government accountable?
There's nothing wrong.
Thank you very much.
But Joho was telling them not to use it just to oppose, just to slow development in Kenya. What I am saying, you can use it for good things and for bad. Joho was advising them to use it for good things. Let's go to one more thing. About opposition and no opposition. Let us understand that today in Parliament, you will find Cherargei of UDA opposing a government position. You will find Wamuchomba of UDA opposing a government position. You will find Sivuna of ODM opposing a government position. So anybody can oppose government position and anybody can support government position on any issue. But also, I have seen people blaming Raila and everybody else for being warm to the government when they are supposed to be in the opposition. Because the Constitution did not envisage anybody being in the opposition, they did not even provide an office or a budget. You cannot help Kenyans by doing opposition work without a budget nor compensation. That is working for free in a country where everybody wants to be remunerated. Now, Junet case on public participation is largely similar to my position on public participation. Public participation from where I sit is meant to create awareness of what the government is doing at any given time. It is not meant to gag the government from doing anything, because sometimes some of those things the government is doing require experts. So when you do public participation in something that requires experts, and these non-experts masses tell you not to do it, what are you going to do? If the government is doing something in court, and you go and do public participation, and they tell you, even though that man did this, we support him, don't do that. So we cannot rely on the masses to direct things that are supposed to be done by experts.
Fair enough. Briefly, before I give you an opportunity to give your final sentiments, I asked you about the tribal issue because C.S. Murkomen said said the president is being fought because of his tribe. What is trouble about questioning the implementation of the social health authority? What is trouble about questioning what is happening in the education sector?
When Murkomen said the president is being fought because his tribe, Murkomen did not add that because he's being questioned. He just said that. So it is me to tell you why he thinks so. Why he thinks so. You saw the churches that came out to console the president. It was the Catholic Church led by the Kikuyu. It was the Presbyterian Church led by the Kikuyu. It was that lady who owns a church for himself. That is why we talk like that. And why they say that, the Catholic bishops were very active during the Moi regime. When Kibaki and Uhuru came, they went silent. When Ruto came into power, they're up again in robes, calling press conferences and refusing even donation. When as late as 2019, donations were made to them by sitting president, and they never complained.
Because of time, gentlemen, we have to wrap up. In just 30 seconds, maybe, I see, Dr. you have a few things to say. What does this latest move mean for the mountain?
These are my notes. It tells you that I'm an all-round man. And you see Mwalimu's notes. But it is what is happening now can only be good for Kenya. Can only be good for the mountain. Can only be good for the progress that we all want to actually be able to achieve. Can only be good to the Gen Zs. We were all in that category at one point or the other. And we, as life goes on, you mature in thought in certain ways. And I think that Kenya is headed toward the right direction. And I want to appreciate President William Ruto for reaching out to President Uhuru Kenyatta. And also I want to appreciate President Uhuru Kenyatta for actually hosting President William Ruto. It is good for the country. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for making time. Thank you very much, Mr. Odeoyidi, for making time. Of course, because of time.
It's okay, I understand. I've said enough. I'll be back here.
Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen, for making time this particular morning. That was the conversation surrounding of course, what next, and after the Uhuruto Pact. We are seeing Uhuruto yet again. Of course, thank you very much for making time. Remy Majal will be coming to you in a moment with the morning vibe, but we'll be keeping tabs with what is happening in the country, especially in the world of politics here in the country. Thank you very much. Do have yourself a wonderful day, and like always, God bless.